Hello, my name is Melinda and this is my YouTube channel where I like to talk about my knitting. Today we have a regular podcast episode. I have a slew of finished objects, including one that I'm wearing, a few works in progress, almost like works in projects, works in progress to discuss, and some acquisitions and future plans. I guess just a quick life update since my last regular episode. I did have my little baby boy, so he is over here snoozing a bit. We might have a couple interruptions and pauses and re-racks, but we'll see what we can do here. Okay, so I guess I will start with what I'm wearing. This is the Checkerplate sweater by Lily Kate Makes, or Lily Kate France. I did test this garment. It's a DK/worsted weight textured Raglan pattern, and you use twisted stitches to get this detailing all over the garment. So a lot of fun, and I did step out of my comfort zone for this one, and it's a color, which actually I have a handful of colorful things today, so not just browns and beiges. Yes, the yarn that I knit this with is the Cascade BFL, which is technically the second time that I used it. The first was in another garment that I just finished up since last time, and I really do enjoy the yarn. Definitely, it's a non-superwash, a little more rustic. It's one of those where I think if you got too warm, it might be uncomfortable, but generally fine to wear next to skin. Let me think. Using it in the project was really nice, especially with all the twisted stitches and everything. Since it is more of a rustic yarn, it gripped it really well, so it was easy to do those. And they are the kind where you do work everything on the needle, so you like work the second stitch before the first stitch and all that. Oh, the one thing, I would not necessarily recommend the yarn for this pattern, however, because it does have a little bit of thick and thin quality going on, so it made some of the twisted stitches just not look as clean, because the thick parts would almost seem like it was a bigger loop. Of course, now I'm trying to find an example that would be easy to show, and I'm not, oh, this one kind of, it's not gonna work very well. No. Just trust me that there are a few scenarios that the thick part of the yarn made my stitches just look a little bit sloppy, but overall the effect is there, and I think it looks pretty sweet. So yes, the colorway I used was blue mallard blue, I think, something along those lines. Yes, I didn't make any modifications. I knit it exactly to pattern, and I think that's about all I've got to say. So yes, this pattern is available, so I'll link it below. It was a lot of fun to knit. It is a bit of an investment, just because you are working the twisted stitches every other row, so it is like you have to pay attention, and I did have to look at the charts basically the whole time. I was able to read my work somewhat pretty much when I got to the body, but here you're doing all the increasing and raglan shaping, so you need to pay attention to the charts pretty specifically. And then working the body, I did kind of figure out the pattern repeat enough to not look at the charts every single round, but as you can see, it is a little bit more complex because you're working this way and you're adding, like, there are the 3 rows that go one direction and the 3 that go the other, and they all, like, each part starts at a different point, so it is like, it's not the easiest to memorize, I guess, but it's not difficult. You just have to pay attention to what you're doing. And then Lily Kate did do something awesome, and that is chart out all of the decreases for the sleeves. So every size has their sleeve decreases written out, and so it looks very clean, and it's very easy to follow for the entire sleeve. This reminds me of, I did knit the Ingrid sweater by Petite Knit, and if you're familiar with that pattern, there is this section where it has like the diamond lattice things going on, which is similar with the twisted stitches. However, the sleeves aren't charted, you just are told to decrease in pattern, and so you don't always know exactly where you should be decreasing, or maybe you don't do something in the pattern because it's right at the beginning or the end of the row, or it might cross over to the next row. So basically it just makes it really simple, and you have to think less just because you're able to just follow what Lily Kate lays out rather than having to kind of sort out exactly what to do with all your decreases. So it was a really great pattern testing experience as well. She was very responsive, and there honestly there were just like a few minor things that I found in the pattern, and it was really great because she offers as payment 2 free patterns from her library as a gift. So that is nice when designers are able to do that for testing, to get a little something for your time in addition to the free pattern, but you are working for it at the same time. So anyway, yes, and this was actually the first time that I've ever knit one of her patterns, and I really did enjoy it, so I'm looking forward to the other 2 that I got, which were the Calm Down cardigan, which I know is something that's been very popular recently. I've seen a lot of people make that, and word on the street is it is a bit of a commitment just because it's a lot of knitting, but the end result is very beautiful, as well as the Tonight top, so something that I'll probably hold off on and work toward the summertime. So yes, that is the Checkerplate sweater by Lily Kate Makes, and my first finished object that I'll talk about today. Okay, next up I have my Kintra sweater, which this was one of the, let me hold it up first. Ooh, hold on. I realized I didn't mention this was the size 3 that I knit for myself, and I'm nursing now, so it's not super consistent, but something like a 37-inch bust. Yes, okay, so this is my next finished object. I grabbed a hanger. That's what I went off to do. I've seen other people do this, and it seems much more effective to hold up, which is very true. Okay, so this is the Kintra sweater by the Crayabea or Rebecca Clow. It is currently still in testing, but I think it's set to be released mid-February, in the next few weeks. So definitely in February. I can't remember exactly which date, but when it is available, I'll be sure to have it linked below. So this one was one of my last cast-offs of 2024. I did actually finish it on the 31st, and it was blocking and everything. So technically it was dry on the 1st, but the knitting and the sewing and everything was complete on the 31st. So yes, this is a new pattern in testing. The idea of this is to be able to use either an advent or just many different colors in the yoke for the 1x1 color work. And I used, for my yarn, this is also the Cascade BFL, and I can't remember the colorway name off the top of my head. And then for my color work, I used an advent that I got a few years ago from Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co., which does have BFL content in it, so that's why I thought this DK weight would work. There are 2 versions of this sweater. the DK weight and the fingering weight, and this one is the DK, so I held, it was actually fingering weight in the advent, and I held it double for the yoke. The advent itself had 12 colors. However, the way that I had set it up, I knit a few of the darker colors first, and then I like popped in with a super bright pink or blue or something, and I just wasn't loving that as much, so I nixed the brighter colors and just kept the 6 more, the darker, moodier colors for my garment, which I think turned out really nice. Yes, it was a lot of fun to knit. The yoke went by super fast. The 1x1 color work, it's one of those things where it's just one more row. And with only using 6 colors from the advent, they were 20-gram minis, I did end up running short at the end. So for the last few rows, I ended up having to kind of like do some mishmash color work, and then I grabbed a Holst cone that I had for the last couple contrast colors and held that triple, actually, because it's a much lighter fingering weight. But I think it flowed, and you wouldn't know that it was not a part of it, but you can kind of see that in general there are like 3 rows of the color work, and then when you get down to the bottom, like I have 1 or even like half a row, and I was kind of holding 2 strands together of different colors just to make it through. So I did use up like every last scrap of the advent of the 6 mini skeins that I used, which in the pattern she definitely calls for more yarn, and I knew it was going to be close because of the calculations I did based on the yarn requirements, and I knew I was going to be cutting it close, which is exactly what happened. Oh yes, and then fit wise, I feel like it's pretty common for people to not love a circular yoke. However, they do have the raglan increases once you get so far down the yoke, and that just helps with the fit. And I know a lot of people in the larger sizes have really appreciated the fit with the raglan increases rather than just only doing increases in a circular yoke fashion. So looking forward to this pattern actually coming out and seeing other versions, but this is what I have for mine. One other note is that the recommendation is for a folded collar, but I'm definitely more of a mock neck person. However, I kind of messed up my tubular bind off right in the front, and so I either need to go back and sort that out, or I might end up doing the folded collar just so I can tack that down. So maybe not 100% finished, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, next up, sorry, I'm trying to think a little more chronologically. I'm just gonna flash these up. I feel like I talked pretty in depth, and I will talk about these more in the future because they will be future designs. However, they're not slated to even go into testing for a little while. I've been working on my actual schedule, so I have something a little more solidified. But these are a couple of my chevron garments, the texture ones that I've been working on. So I did finish up the body. This is the crew neck one, and I finished up the body. So crew neck pullover. This was knit in, oh no, I forgot again. It's the Knitpicks wool of the Andes, but it's like the natural version. Bugger, I can't think of what it is. But yes, just a classic worsted weight, non-super wash. I think it's Peruvian Highland wool, if I remember correctly. Dang it, I can't think of what it is. That's okay, I'll figure it out. So yes, I finished this one up, and I also finished my red cardigan, and oh, I bought buttons, but I haven't sewn them on yet. I should do that. So this is the same basic pattern. However, this is a V-neck cardigan version. I wonder if putting it on the hanger will be easier to hold. Let's see what happens. Once I put the buttons on, it'll definitely be easy. There we go. Nice. So yes, still need the buttons, but this is the V-neck cardigan. This one I knit in Cascade 220 in, I think it's just a red colorway or maybe Christmas red, something like that. So same idea, future pattern, but it won't be coming out for a little while yet. So, but just a quick update there. Okay, then next up is something that, oh, I did cast this on last time, but I think I only just had a part of the yoke at that point. Oh yes, this one was on and off the needles since last time, but I think everything else had been started or was almost finished. So yes, this is nice. I love it. Okay, this one is another upcoming design. Baby's making noise. Pause. Okay, this is another design. No specific timeline to announce just yet, but I did finish this one up. I do have some ends to still weave in, but it is blocked and everything. This one is a drop shoulder top down garment. I knit this one in the Cascade Revive yarn in a colorway I can't remember, but it's like a deep brown, very rich color. This is probably one of the more rustic Cascade yarns that I've used. However, when I washed and blocked it, I did the hair conditioner trick where you just put a little drop in there, and it is crazy how much it softened this up. So I would definitely, also it smells yummy, definitely recommend doing that for any rustic yarns that you want to give just a little more softness, is put a little bit of hair conditioner in your water when you're blocking it, washing and blocking it. So yes, the whole premise behind this is that I love drop shoulder designs. However, I don't love that much purling, whether it's in like a dark yarn or a not super smooth yarn. I also am intrigued by the idea of doing this kind of design for fingering weight, so you're not doing so much purling at the top. We're talking a lot over there. So yes, I don't know that this will be the last one that I make, because I think it would be great to do it for other textured yarns, whether that's like a Surrey or mohair held double based on the gauge, or like a boucle or other more textured yarn. We're making noises. Baby. So yes, I think I might expand this one to other options besides just a standard worsted weight yarn, but we shall see. So yes, it is, you start with the back panel and then you use increases to do the back shaping, and you have this stockinette along the garter to kind of bring in these slip stitches, mimic that, and then the slip stitches are also down the front, and they go all the way from the garter stitch through the body into the 2x2 ribbed hem. I did choose to do a split hem for this one. The sleeves are pretty oversized, and 2x2 ribbing on the cuff. Used my favorite sewn bind off method for 2x2 ribbing, which I can link that tutorial video below, but it's gives the effect of the tubular bind off without actually doing the rearranging of stitches, so you don't get like the weird slants that you get if you do the modified tubular bind off, where you change the orientation of your 2x2 ribbing to be 1x1 and then basically do the 1x1 tubular bind off. And then I did a folded collar for this one, which I think gives a really nice structure to the garter stitch, since that does tend to stretch out a little bit more. Yes, so pretty excited about this one. I have yet to wear it or anything, so we'll see how that goes. But I want to kind of expand this into other areas as well, just because I think it can be very effective for other yarn options. So yes, that is finished object number 5 since last time. And I have one more. And stealing my hanger from this one to put on this one. So this garment has been on and off the needles since I filmed last. Ooh, that's kind of stretching the neckline out a little weird. Okay, let's see. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is a pretty exciting moment because I have attempted to create a sweater design with this a few times. I did a bottom up drop shoulder garment with this stitch pattern. However, the yarn that I had used was discontinued. I talked about this years ago in a different episode, but the yarn that I used was discontinued, so I didn't really follow through on anything. And then I tried to recreate it a few different times using different yarns. I did a drop shoulder again with the brown yarn that was featured in my Everything I Knit in 2024 because I frogged my first attempt, my partial attempt, I guess, second attempt, sorry. I frogged my attempt with the Rowan Norwegian wool, that deep brown color again. Frogged that just to knit the basic stockinette crew neck that I had talked about in my Everything I Knit in 2024 video. And then I had attempted again in a sport weight wool yarn. However, it was just getting like too dense, and so that wasn't working again. But when I attempted with the sport weight wool, I started doing it in a raglan shaping rather than drop shoulder, which just worked so much better for this stitch pattern. So I knew that that would be more effective. Then as I was thinking about it, it was just so heavy and dense with, I was using Knitpicks Wool of the Andes Sport. And by the time I got through that whole garment, it was gonna be a lot of yarn and very dense and just more like too stiff. It would be like more jacket, but it's a pullover. So then I was trying to decide if there was a better yarn option out there. So I considered doing some kind of blown yarn or a woolen spun yarn or something. Yes, I thought about woolen spun yarn so that it would just be airier and not as dense. However, I feel like with a lot of woolen spun yarns, you don't get the best stitch definition. They're just like a little bit more, they aren't as like perfectly round in order to see the texture as well. So then I was like, oh, what about a blown yarn so that you get that lightness, but it also is a little more round and will provide the stitch definition to show off this texture. Wow, okay, quite the ramble. But yes, so that is what I went with, and I tried out a new to me yarn, again, a Cascade yarn. I've just been really on the Cascade rampage recently, apparently. I think I have an unused skein. Nice, okay. So the Cascade yarn I use is Cascade Cantata. And this is a 70% cotton, 30% superwash merino wool. So it's the whole situation where it's the cotton like cord, and then the merino wool is blown into it. And of course you can see the cotton is more of the white color, and then this is actually maroon. However, I feel like it definitely gives more purple, which I was a little surprised when it got here, but then I actually like held it next to my phone. I thought they maybe had sent the wrong color because there is more of a purpley color in this, but it does say the color number 38 and it is a maroon colorway. But anyway, so yes, tried for the blown yarn. And then I also ended up going up more needle sizes. So this is like a worsted weight, but this garment is knit on a size 9 needle because it is like a slip stitch pattern. And so it's not like so loose that you can really see through it or anything, but it just works for the stitch pattern so much better than anything I had tried in the past. Yes, so the way that I constructed this is through the method where you cast on, and instead of doing short rows, you do increases to raise the back neck and form the like curve of the front part of the yoke. And yes, I'm trying to think what else. So yes, cast on, and then you do all the raglan increases. For my specific size, it is just the basic raglan where you continue the same kind of every other row. Well, it's actually every third row. Now I'm trying to remember. I don't know. It'll be in the pattern when the pattern comes out. But it's consistent increases on both sides. However, for some of the larger sizes, it will be where you do the consistent for a while, and then is it compound or something raglan, where the increase rate will change on the sleeves versus the body so that you get the nice shaping. And then they are pretty wide loose sleeves. There are some decreases, but nothing too dramatic. And then 1x1 ribbing with tubular bind offs at the cuff. And there is actually a decrease row before the ribbing in the pattern, because this stitch pattern is, since there are slip stitches, it cinches in a lot more. And so in order to have a cuff that's not wider than the slip stitch pattern work itself, you had to do some decreases. And so there are some before the cuff as well as before the hem. So the goal with this was to make it based on the like cotton and superwash wool yarn that I ended up choosing. I wanted it to be more of a sweatshirt that I could just throw on every day and not be too particular about it, too worried about it getting messy or covered in tiny humans' bodily fluids, which is my life recently with a 6-week-old newborn. Yes, so I'm really excited about how this turned out. I am curious to see if it would work in more of a standard worsted weight yarn, now that I did discover how beneficial it is to go up in needle sizes. I have also thought about it, even if it's not as light as this is, if I'm able to do it more in like a cardigan or something, just a more dense jacket kind of situation. So I do plan to play around with this stitch pattern a little bit more, but I'm really, really pleased with the results of this and how it turned out. So yes, this is, again, something that's not imminently going to be released, but is in the plans for this year once I get things rolling. Okay. So that is it for my finished objects, all 6 of them. Pretty excited about everything that I've accomplished at the end of last year and so far in January now. Let's see. Okay, now we'll move on to works in progress. We'll take a sip of coffee. I think I just have 2 whips, kind of 2.5. I'll touch on this one first. Everything's on the floor, a little out of reach. As you can see, I've been focused a lot on garment knitting, so I haven't really done much on my socks. I did complete the heel flap and gusset, so now I just need to finish. Sorry, let me start over. This is a sock that's part of my chevron saga, and I have the first one done and just need to finish the second sock. I have this pattern completely written up, so basically the test call was come in the next couple weeks, probably, maybe at my next video, for this sock pattern. And yes, so I finished the heel flap gusset decreases, and now I just need to do the foot. This is an Ottoman indigo yarn that I did have in stash, but it is just the basic 75-25 superwash merino nylon, and it was in a mystery pack, so I don't have the colorway name, but you also wouldn't be able to get it anyway. So yes, I am going to work up at least a little bit. I have some Cascade Heritage, I think, just to make sure that, I mean, this yarn is like the standard basic. I'm fully confident that it will work in pretty much any sock yarn, but yes, I will work up a little bit of one of these in an easily available sock yarn. Okay, so enough on that. The next cast on that I had is the beginnings of, I'm trying to arrange it so you can actually see it. This will be a traveler hoodie by Andrea Mowry. And this garment is, there we go. The needles are a little bit shorter. This garment is a bottom up drop shoulder construction, standard for Andrea Mowry patterns for her drop shoulders to be bottom up. Pardon me again, goodness, sorry, gross. And yes, okay, so the pattern is written so that you cast on in 2x2 ribbing and then start into the texture pattern, which is just like purl and stockinette and reverse stockinette ridges, and then it has the detail on the side where you slip stitches. I think that's for a little bit of structure, as well as so you don't see the jog from one row to the next when you're switching from the purl rounds to the knit rounds. But yes, so the pattern suggests or is written for you to cast on with the 2x2 ribbing and then switch to the pattern. However, I do know that it's a bit shorter of a garment, so what I did instead was just cast on and went right into the pattern repeat. And I kind of want to play with it, using up as much of my yarn as possible. So once I basically finish the top part of the garment, I will of course ensure that I have enough yarn for at least the ribbing. Sorry, so I'm gonna knit the body to pattern and go complete the whole top half of the garment. So do the sleeves, hood, everything, and then come back and do as much more body as I can get out of the yarn that I have, and then just knit the ribbing top down. So I cast on like in the middle of part of the stockinette rounds, or that's where I started my pattern repeat, so then I can continue on in stockinette and go into the ribbing if that's the only yarn quantity that I have remaining, or add as much more body as I can. And I think it will work pretty well, except for the slip stitches. They might be just like half a stitch offset, but I don't think it'll be super noticeable, and I think it will be worthwhile to have a longer garment if I'm able to have just a little bit of the slip stitch detail down the side be slightly off. I think it'll be worth it anyway. So that is what I have here. I think you only knit like 7 inches or something for the body for the size that I'm doing. And I think I'm at like 4 or something, so maybe a little over halfway. The yarn I'm using depths of my box. Okay, so I'm knitting this in the Berroco Lanas Light. It's 100% wool in the color 78116. I don't remember what that one actually is. This is the first time I've used this yarn and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's like a heathery 2-ply and it's just been super nice to work with. So very happy with this yarn. And I have 5 balls, which I think is about the correct amount called for. I'd initially gotten this for a different project I'll talk about in a second, but then the color and the heathering didn't really give the effect that I wanted to, so then I switched those projects around, but I do have less yardage. So the other yarn that I had would definitely be more than enough to knit the body longer and do the hood and everything. This will be enough for at least the crew neck, and I believe it will be enough for the hood and to add length based on the fact that pattern designers will add the buffer of the yardage requirements to be able to like swatch or gauge differences, whatever it might be. So I think I should have enough anyway, but if I'm not able to do the hood, then I will just do the traveler crew neck. And yes, but this is a great option, I think, and I'm excited to see how it wears. Okay, wonderful. And then my final whip to talk about today, I'm very excited about. This is another design that I'm working on. I guess one thing to note about that, so I definitely want to continue designing. I am having so much fun working on everything. However, I do still want to keep working on other designers' patterns. So my goal is to pretty much always have someone else's pattern on the needles in addition to what I'm working on design-wise. And I think that will be, it's fun. There are a lot of other patterns that I'm interested in knitting, as well as just like learning other designers' methods and everything, and exploring different options in construction and everything like that. So I think it will be beneficial for making my personal designs better, but also there are so many people who make so many incredible things already, so I don't need to come up with everything myself. So yes, that's the goal, is to always have something on the needles that is not a personal design, so that number one, I have that bit of respite from having to think through everything, in addition to just enjoying other people's creations and what they've made. So anyway, this is hard to see. Let me see if I can spread this out a little bit more. Okay, so after knitting 65,000, that's an exaggeration, obviously, drop shoulder garments last year, I am now in a Raglan phase, and I've been enjoying it a lot. So this, nice, okay, it looks really odd right now, but I basically have, well, I guess I'll show you. So I have a ready-to-wear sweater that I've had for many years. This is from Express, and it is at least 10 years old, something along those lines, but I do love this a lot. However, it is just getting like a little bit worn. It's also like a 60-40 cotton acrylic blend for the makeup of this garment, but I love the structure. I love the construction and the fit and everything. So I'm essentially recreating it here with a few tweaks, of course. Like obviously there's going to be a different gauge, maybe not obviously, but there is a different gauge, and then slightly different, the sleeves on this are just a little bit shorter than I would prefer, so I plan to make the sleeves longer. The the proportions are just slightly different for the sleeves versus the body. So it's not like an exact copy paste, which would not, I mean, maybe it would be possible, but is not what I'm trying to do here. But I am really enjoying how this product is working up. So yes, it's a V-neck, and this actually is a raglan, which I am mimicking in my version. So this is knit in half fisherman's rib, and so the way this one is constructed is cast on at the top, and I actually did do some short rows in addition to doing the increases for the front piece of the raglan down to the V-neck. And this looks super dramatically wide, but it is going to be a pretty substantial collar, so it will bring everything in and kind of close it up a little bit. So yes, most of it is worked flat, which if you've knit half fisherman's rib before, you'll know that that's the best way to do it, because on the wrong side rows, you're just knitting across rather than purling. So the right side rows are knit one below, purl, and then the wrong side rows are just knit across. So the V-neck style of this is really nice because you're working flat up until this point where you join. And then there are still a few more raglan increases to be done. And so there are, I think it was like 2 or 3 inches where it's knit in the round, and so then you do working in the round, you're working the knit one below, purl for one round, and then you do purl the entire row. But then rather than knitting the entire body in the round, I'm working it so that you can knit the front piece flat. So then it's a little bit hard to show in this state. I'm going to hold it upside down. So basically, yes, you start working the front piece flat. So there are cast on stitches for the underarms, and then this will just be the front panel that you'll knit to the hem, or where you would start the hem, and then you'll pick up for the back panel, do the cast on stitches for either side for the underarm, knit that up to the point where you would join for the hem, and then the hem will be knit in the round for the 1x1 ribbing, and you'll seam it up the sides. The plan is for the actual pattern to have 2 different options, where you either continue in the round if you don't mind the purl rows, or obviously work it like this where you'll end up seaming at the end. Now, I think seaming isn't the biggest deal to me, but I know some people are anti-seaming, so you'll have the option to do just the purl rows in the round. And then, but I think I would rather just seam up the 2 sides, and it'll be the same for the sleeves where those are worked flat and then seamed. So I would prefer to just do that little bit of seaming than do so much purling in the round. I guess a note about the yarn, this is sport weight yarn, and I'm knitting it on 3.25 millimeter needles. And so yes, at the sport weight gauge, like, there's a lot of knitting to be done, and so by working it flat, it's just so much easier. You do the ribbing round row and then just knit back and then go back and forth, and it just goes so much faster than having to purl the whole way around for me and my knitting capabilities. So definitely prefer it with this construction. The yarn that I'm using is Purl Soho Good Wool, which is 100% Andean Highland wool in the dark spruce colorway. This is really, really wonderful yarn. I'm enjoying working with it. I feel like it is super similar to the Lanas Light. What did they say this kind was? Just as 100% wool. A special blend of South American wools made in Peru. And this is Andean Highland wool, so potentially overlaps. The Lanas Light actually feels slightly softer just to the touch than the Purl Soho yarn. This is the first time that I've ever used Purl Soho, and you'll see in my acquisitions I did get a couple or one other kind to try. But yes, I'm enjoying this a lot. The project is a lot of fun. I've been pretty addicted to it and almost knitting monogamously, which is not usually my style for at least the past like 4 days. So that's why I don't have that many whips, because I've been so excited about working on this. So yes, we'll just keep chugging along and seeing how this goes. But I want this finished sweater so bad, so we'll see what happens before next time. I would not be surprised if I had a finished garment. Yes, so there is that. Cool. So yes, this is baby. Yes, Tara. Okay, so we'll see how this goes. We'll see if we can just get through the acquisitions and rock a baby at the same time. Okay, so we'll see how this goes. It did not go great, but I found it fairly entertaining to at least watch myself attempt to hold the baby in the manner that I was, in addition to showing you all of the yarn. So here are a couple goofy clips of me trying to do so, and now the real acquisition section. Okay, fed a baby. Hopefully he'll be content to hang out on the floor for just a little bit longer. Alright, so I realize I do have one more kind of whip to chat about. So this is something I'm just messing around with, and I think it might be worthwhile to show because I need to do some more troubleshooting. But I had an idea for just like a textured knit that resembles, I wonder if I can find a picture, but basically there are these one like kind of quilted jackets that I've seen that have like the quilted part of it is, it's almost like in like hourglass wavy shapes, whatever. But basically I was considering recreating that just with texture, with knits and purls. So here's a little swatch that I did, and you get the idea where it's kind of like coming in and out all the way down. So I did knit pretty much the entire yoke. Well, I did, yes, I'm joining the round here. So I did knit the entire yoke of a sweater, but I just don't think it's exactly what, it's not coming out as nicely as I would have expected. So a couple things. One, it's not blocked like the swatch, so it's not laying as nicely. I guess the back panel has a little bit more to look at. So yes, basically has these shapes going down, and these are just purl stitches that are in between. So like it's okay, but it's not exactly what I was going for. I also think I messed up the shape a little bit. Like this should go down and kind of bubble out a little bit more and not be like so perfectly eyeball shaped on the side. So just not exactly right. The other thing is with the shoulders, so I had done it with just doing short rows across the back. However, that meant that like when you do the pickup, the pattern isn't gonna match at all going over the shoulder, which isn't the biggest deal, but I wanted something to like go in between, so I tried some purl ridges. So basically it's not quite right. And then yes, the sleeve or shoulder pickup, like there was no way I could do it to perfectly line up and continue in pattern, and so with how I had started it. So then I also didn't had it done anything on the back panel. I tried some purl ridges, but it just didn't look quite right. So then I like picked up the wrong direction, so that basically the cast on stitches would give you that line across, but I just don't think it looks clean. So basically this is not really working out. I don't know if I'm going to completely abandon the idea or just try to rework it. Of course there are different ways that I can do this so that it's still top down, but I can make the shoulders line up when you're working like the back panel, and then when you pick up for the front panels. I've had a couple different ideas of how I can manage that. Of course, if you work it bottom up, then you can just bind off with the 3 needle bind off and mirror it like that. Sorry, we've got a noisy boy over there. So yes, not exactly sure where this one's gonna go, but I'm a lot more excited about other projects, so I actually haven't touched it for a couple weeks now. So we'll see if this gets revived or not. But it's an idea that I'm pretty intrigued by. I just don't think I'm executing it in the best way possible. Hopefully we can just run through acquisitions quick. So I definitely took advantage of a lot of the year-end sales slash Christmas money that I had been gifted to buy this yarn. Okay, so the Cascade yarn I just talked about, I have the sweater quantity. This is the camel colorway. I don't think I mentioned actually what it was, but yes, Cascade 220 in the camel color 8622. So I got a sweater quantity in that, as well as sweater quantities. I think this is the straw colorway, which is 4010, and this like cinnamon rusty red 2453. So I got sweater quantities of those 3, and then I got accessory quantity. So I just got 2 skeins of this light gray in, that's the 8401 colorway, also Cascade 20, Old Faithful. I purchased this lot from Webs, so yarn.com, and so they're a major Cascade dealer. So then I did also get 220 super wash merino, and this is for a gift knit. This is the colorway 120. So this will be cast on soon. I've cast on and tried a few things, but nothing's really worked out yet, so we'll just not talk about that. Then I did get some summer yarn to try. Oh wait, hold on, one more Cascade purchase. So I would like to increase my knit sock wardrobe. I only have a handful of pairs. So I got 3 different skeins of Cascade Heritage Silk. So it is a superwash merino, but it's 85% wool, 15% silk. Oh man. Sock yarn, Cascade Heritage Silk, 85% superwash merino, wool, 15% silk. So that gives the durability that nylon would, but is a natural fiber. So I'm curious how this will go for sock yarn. So we'll see how that works up. I guess the 3 different colors I got were 5681 is this guy, 5771 is this guy, and 5683 for the taupey brown. Okay, try it like this. Ready? Baby in the lap. Okay, powering through again. Summer yarn, Valley Yarn Southwick. So Valley Yarns is Webs' in-house yarn brand, and it's 50 grams, 105 yards. Not right now, okay? And then I did also do a Purl Soho order, which included the good wool that I'm knitting the V-neck out of, and then I got linen quill in 2 different colorways in sweater quantities of each. So this one is the fingering weight, 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, 15% linen. This one is the colorway Kiln Red. And then I also grabbed the let's see, Fresh Nutmeg colorway. So those are 2 garment quantities. One of them, or that might be a contender for the like Garter yoke fingering weight version. Also, did I tell you there's a tiny human on my lap? Okay, and then I realized that I had also popped into Michael's for a reason. Got stuff for not knitting purposes. Sounds really cryptic. It was for a baby shower. But Copper Colors is the colorway, I think. And I got Patton's Core socks, sorry. I have not tried this sock yarn before, and as I mentioned, I want to beef up my sock stash, so I picked up 2 balls of this just to test it out. I think that about covers it. Definitely does. So, well, as much as I can think of anyway. But yes, I so appreciate if you've made it this far. I appreciate all the support and the kind comments, and congratulations on the new addition to our family. Oh look, his little hand. You can wave. Bye. And I'm going to go tend to my family. So yes, thank you all so much again, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.